Hello there. Thank you for stopping by. My name is Nagaraja Settra. So in this video, I'll be showing you how to get started with Play Framework. Using a Java programming language on Eclipse IDE with the latest version of Play Framework. At the time of recording, the latest version was 2.5.10. So Play Framework all these offers and all these cool features. I'm not going to be spending time today in explaining these. So the main purpose of this video is to demonstrate developing applications using Play Framework, how to quickly get started with the Play Framework, showing so many different aspects. Also, let's jump right into it. The first thing you want to do is download Activator from playframework.com and do the installation. The installation is very easy. You just download this zip file and extract it. So I've already done that at this location. I have that distribution right here. So once you download, extract it, you need to update your path environment variable to the bin folder. So once you have that, you'll be able to run Activator from anywhere on your system. Right. So the installation is complete already. So the next step is to creating an application. So the way to create application is using the activator command and passing a new argument. Just say activator new. So what this does is it's going to give us options to choose one of the templates for our development. Since the demo is about play application using Java, I'm going to choose option number 5 and call this as play demo application. So the application is created. So we can go into our application folder and see that the application is there. And let me start the activator. So the activator is a very cool tool. When you just say activator, it's going to start an interactive console where you can interact with your application development process. You can run the application, you can compile, you can run your unit tests, you can configure your application for Eclipse. So it offers a few other things. So we have the console available now. So let me run the application. So the application we just created, it came with some default set of code that we will be using for the demonstration today. So the application is up and running now. So framework comes with the inbuilt netty HTTP server, which is of NIO kind. What it means is it's a non-blocking in nature. All the requests which are going to be processed by the Play framework are asynchronous in nature, which is quite different from the old style of the application servers. So the server is listening at port number 9000. So let's go to our browser and try to access our application. So since we're accessing the application for the first time, it is going through the compilation of all the files. So once the compilation is done, so by default when we start the server, and we are running in a development mode. So the application is up and it is serving the page which is there in our application. So the next thing that we want to do is to configure this application for Eclipse. So the way to do that is, so I'm here, let me go into the play demo folder, so which is our application. Run the activator command again. So the activator, as I'm going to keep my application running all the time during this demo. So you can see whenever we make changes, it's going to be able to pick up the changes without actually restarting or rebuilding any of that stuff. So I got into the Activator console. I want to configure the project source for Eclipse. So the way to do that is just issue the Eclipse command for the Activator. So this is going to create all the necessary files for Eclipse. So since it is already done, I'm going to come back in here and try to import that project. Let's see. So the play framework, play demo. So it is able to detect that project. Okay. So there are a couple of more things that we need to do to finish up the Eclipse configuration stuff. Those steps are available in the documentation section. There are three things we need to do. First thing that we need to do is enable Eclipse for SBT. By the way, SBT is the build tool that framework uses. That is the simple build tool, right? So the way I enabled that SBT for the Eclipse is by modifying the plugins folder at the global level under my home directory. Right, I have the SBT installed, so you can create this folder and modify that plugins.sbt to include that line. So the couple of more things we need to do, right? The next thing that we need to do is we have to go into our project, open our the build SBT file, and add this line. What this line says is this is going to force the compilation of a project next time when you issue the Eclipse command. I think this is needed so that any kind of all generated class files are available to resolve any kind of dependencies within our application code. Soon you'll find that why that is required. There's one more thing that we need to do. We need to configure SBT to indicate that the development that is going to happen in this application is just going to be in Java. So after you do those two things, so you get back to your Eclipse, the Activator interactive console. So you need to reload the plugins with those changes. And issue the Eclipse command one time. Let's see if our source codes look fine. The one thing I want to verify is going to my home controller. You can see that my view is still not resolved. It shows the red line. I haven't yet figured out exact reason why it's not able to resolve it quickly. So what I need to do is I need to run that Eclipse command a couple of times. It's still not resolved. So I'm going to come back in here, hit F5. Okay, great. Now it was able to resolve that dependency of the compiled view. So why I think this is important, I need to explain in here. There are a couple of things that we need to know with this application is the view files and the route files are also compiled. These are the view files, and this is the route file. So while I'm at it, let me walk you guys through the way the application is structured, right? The different folders in this application. So this application this is the app is the key folder where you are going to host all of your the assets which needs compilation, which is your controller files, which is your views and models, and any coffee scripts that you will be developing, And the next folder is the conf folder, which contains your configuration files, which is your routes file and this application.conf file. Test is going to contain your the unit test classes, unit test packages. The project has your plugins.spd file. The public is going to host your static assets, which are your JavaScript, style sheets, and images. And you already saw this build.spd file where we have to modify to set up our Eclipse. Right, so that is the anatomy of this play application. That's where all the different files are going to live. Now let's start playing around with this application, right? And let's start interacting with this application. So application is still running, and this is what came up when we access the default context path. Let's try to figure out, why the application is showing this content to us. The way to do that is to start at the route file. And the route file says this default context path is served by this home controller, and that home controller as an action defined index. The index action is the reason why we see that result, that path. What this index action does is it returns OK. What that means is, I'm returning HTTP 200 by serving this view. So it invokes this view by passing one argument, which is the message. Your new application is ready. Let's take a look at how that view is defined. As you can see here, the view accepts that one argument, and later down here it includes other templates, which is there is one more template in here, the main template. It includes the main template. That main template takes two parameters. The first one is the message parameter. The second one is this HTML content. This HTML content invokes this play 20 welcome template. In the play 20 template, that template, play 20 template, is the one which is producing this documentation, the play framework documentation, which is cool. That what it demonstrates here is the play framework's documentation is available locally. When your server is up and running, you can browse around and learn about the play framework. For this demonstration purpose, what I'll do is I'm going to take out this inclusion of the inbuilt play the template, and I'm just going to display the message that we passed from our action. I'm going to make that change and come back, and here hit refresh to see if that change is going to be picked up. As you can see there, the change got picked up, and it is showing the message we passed from our action class. Let's do one more change. This time let's make a change to our controller Java class and change the message to say hello world. Go back to our browser, again hit refresh to see if it can pick up our changes. As you can see there, it picked up our changes. It shows the new message hello world. This demonstrates the hit refresh workflow. So the changes to your Java file or changes to your view templates are available when you're running your activated in the development mode right away. So you don't need to go through a lengthy build and deployment process to pick up those changes. And so what is also convenient about running this in the development mode is also it is going to pick up any kind of the Java compilation issues that you may have. So this the convenient feature tells you where exactly the compilation issue is. It is at line number 20, and there's a problem with this line. As you can see there's a double quotes missing that we took out. Let's fix that compilation issue, and again go back and hit refresh to see the fix. So that is a demonstration of the hit and refresh workflow. Let's do the next thing that I want to demonstrate is how do you test. Before I get into test, let me show you those test files. There are two test files. There's an application test file which does a couple of unit tests. You can discover on your own. The second one is the integration test, which is a browser test by passing in this HTML unit driver. This is again provided by the framework. That is very convenient. What this does is within the browser it checks if this your message is present or not. If you recall, I had changed this message to say hello world. Let's go to our activated console and run our test by issuing a test command. So this is compiling, and let's see what happens with the test. So see, it failed. So you know the reason why it failed, because we don't have that message. The message got changed. Let's fix that integration test to say our modified message hello world. Go back to that console and run it quickly, so that you can do that by passing test-quick. So when you issue this command, it's going to run only the test which failed. So now it's able to pass that test. So that is a quick demo of how you can run the unit tests within the Play framework. The next, let's move on to the next demonstration item that I wanted to show. The next one I wanted to show is how do you do the persistence with the Play framework. I'm going to demonstrate with the e-bean, right? To make use of the e-beans, so we have to first do a couple of setup, right? So for the e-bean, we have to enable the e-bean plugin and make it available for our build tool. And the second thing that we want to do is we want to get into our configuration file and add our data source. Let's start doing one by one. Let me go into the plugins file. So that is already available. The e-bean plugin is already available. You just have to uncomment. And this comment here also explains how to make it available for your build file. So go into the build SPD file and enable the plugin. So we enabled the plugin. There are a couple of more configurations we need to do, right? We need to go into our configuration file and add the data source. For the demonstration, I'm going to be using the conveniently available in-memory database within this Play framework, which is the H2 in-memory database. To make use of that, you just have to uncomment those two lines, so that finishes up our data source configuration. The next thing I want to say is to tell our Play framework where our the models are going to reside. The way to do that is by saying e-bean default equals, this is a list of the packages that you can specify, but for the demonstration I'm going to just say just one package. This is not created yet. I'll be creating very soon. So the e-bean, the entities are going to be residing for the e-bean at this package. So I think that finishes up all the configurations we need. So let's go back into our app folder. So this will be another compiled assets, right? The models. So let's create that package, models package. So before I create my entity, there is one more thing that we need to do. Since we added a new plugin to our build tool, and for Eclipse, we need to make sure that the Eclipse is aware of that. So again, what we need to do is we have to go back to our activated console and issue reload command. What reload command does is it's going to reload all the plugins, the new plugins that we might need. In this case, we need that the ebean plugins and the necessary dependency classes need to be resolved. So let me run that eclipse command again, so that our eclipse setup files are aware that we'll be using the ebeans. So once that is done, let's create our entity file. For this demonstration, I'm going to be creating an entity called person. So this is how you'll be defining this class. Let's call it as a person. It's going to be residing in that models package, and this will be extending model class. Let me do refresh and see if the model is available. As you can see there, that is conveniently available for me to import. Right. So once you do that, we'll be using Java persistence annotations to indicate that this is an entity. Again, we need to import that as well. And this entity is going to have two properties. So the first one is the ID. So we need another annotation. So the ID is going to be of type long ID, and another property is going to be of type string name. So we need to import this ID annotation. Okay, so that completes the definition of our entity bean. And let's try to make use of this entity bean. How can we make use of this entity bean? So to make use of this entity bean, we need a form where user can create a new person entities. So to post that form is what you need to do. What we need to do is we need to create another route where that form post can happen. So let's create that route. So it's going to be of type post, and it's going to be available at post person, and then that is going to be handled by our new action control called add person. So add person is the new action which will be implementing that form. Let's go in to our home controller and start developing the new action. There are two ways to do this. The one is in the Java 6 style. As you can see here, the Java 6 style is already made use. Just to make it interesting, what I'll be doing here is I'm going to be doing this the action code development using Java 8, using lambdas and the completion stage. Right. So which is going to be completion stage result. Let's import this, the Java 8's new concurrent API. Alright, this is add person action. So what we want to do in this add person, right, when the form post happens, we need to take that person from the form and save it into the database. So to do that, there are a couple of things that we need to do. First thing we need here is the form factory, which is available within the Play framework, and the second thing we need is the execution context. Let's inject those two objects that we need. First one that we want to inject is the form factory. And let's import form factory. Let's see, why is it not importing? Okay, I think I made a typo. Form factory. Okay, so it is able to inject. So the play framework for dependency injection, it uses Google's Juice. That's what it uses for the dependency injection purpose. Of course, I think you should be able to replace that with any other dependency injection frameworks. Not any other. I think it lets you do with a few other dependency framework. So since the play framework is by default asynchronous, non-blocking in nature, uh, when we try to respond, we have to make sure that we pass the execution context to our method. Let's see why it's not able to resolve. HTTP, one more typo, sorry about that. Okay. So this is a play libs execution context that we need to import. Okay, so once we those are the two the key variables that we need to finish up our development in here. So 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 to save the person, we need to get the person from the form object and save it into the database. So the way to implement in the Java 8 style is using the cool lambdas. Return completable future. By supplying the execution in a synchronous manner. So the first thing is the supplier is going to be a lambda which takes no arguments, but it saves a person to DB. So it's called save person to DB. And the second thing is we need to pass our execution context, right? Once that is done, when it's done executing that, your callback handler that will be executed is then apply. Let's before I finish up, let me implement that the save person to DB method. So it's going to return boolean save person to DB. Right. So it's going to return true. Let's come back in here and see. Let's complete this method. Then apply. So as you can see there, the save person to DB returns a flag. So we'll implement another function in here again using Java 8's lambda. So it takes a one argument flag. We won't be using that flag variable, but we'll take that argument. What we want to do is we want to redirect the user back to the home page. So let's make use of the reverse routing. There is another cool feature that is available with the Play framework. What this lets us do is we don't need to hard code the paths within our controllers. So we can call with the reverse routing. We call redirect, and what route we want to use. Say route dot. We want to use the home controller, and we want to go back to index. That's it. And that finishes up this first part of the implementation. We need to finish up extracting that person from the form and saving it into the database. First, let's bind the form to to the person entity. So the way to do that is using form factory, the form method, and we specify to what class, to what entity, to what being this is pointing to. This is bound to, this is bound to the person entity. So let's import a couple of things here. Let's import form. So it's a play data form. So we did the binding, and let's create the person object. Let's extract the person object from the form. The way to do that is say form bind request. We don't want to pass any, we'll use the default method and say get. This gets us the person object. Once you have the person object, the cool thing about entities which extend model, we get a lot of these convenient methods to save it to the database. So that's how you can quickly save it to the database, and that is the way to make use of the Java 8's lambdas. Basically, the Java 8 lambdas, right? With this implementation, what we are doing here is we're making our method implementation as a non-blocking kind. I mean, by default, the play framework is asynchronous. This is executed in an asynchronous fashion because it is an IO server. But if you have multiple steps that you want to execute within your action, you don't need to hold that one thread. You can hand off to multiple threads and execute them separately, concurrently. So we did that. So the next piece that we need to do is we need to go to our view and provide that form definition. Let's see, let's go back to the index view. So let me take out this message and provide the form, right? We need a form. So the form as the action, right, where you want to post when user submits. The posting is going to happen to the new route that we are defining. So again, another cool feature is to with the views being compiled, and we can locate those with the reverse routing routes. Unfortunately, this Eclipse does not have the plugin, but that doesn't mean that we'll have to that feature is not available. We just have to hardcode the whole thing. Controller add person. This is so we need to call this route, right? It's routes.homeController add person, and with the method, if you recall, we said we'll be making use of post method. And it's going to supply just the name input of type text, and let's call it as give it a name so that the proper binding can happen with the form binding, and let's give a submit button, and let's call it as add person. Okay, so I think we did all the development needed to save the person to the DB. Let's see what happens with the application. As you know, that application is still running. I never really had to shut it down. So let's refresh this. Let's hit refresh again to see what happens. So it is compiling all the new code that we did, but it is complaining. It's complaining that the Java X persistence entity it's not available. That is strange. Maybe I think with the plugin updates that we did, we may have to rerun our application. Let me try to do that one time. So the way to shut down is to just do Control D. Just to be safe, let me compile it one more time. Run the activator command. Run it one more time. Let's see if it is able to locate all the necessary dependencies this time. Awesome. So it's able to locate all the dependencies. We were able to locate the dependencies. So as this response, what it says here, the framework, Play framework comes with another the neat feature is the evolutions. Any database updates that can happen in different versions. This is the evolutions feature. So the another cool. I'm not going to go into details about how the evolutions happen within the framework. With the time in mind. The another cool feature with this the development mode is you can quickly apply. What it says is you added a new entity person, but it complains that there's no corresponding table present in the database. So we can quickly click this button and create the table in our in-memory database. As you can see there, the table got created, and we were able to resolve all the errors with this page, and the form is available. All right, so we can add different names. Let's see, try to send one name, try to say one person. So it looks like something happened, but the problem is we don't have other routes available yet. Let's create one more route so that we can list out all the persons that we are adding. Let's go back to our routes file again. Let's create another route which is going to be of type get, and let's call it as a persons. Again, we will add this new action in the same home controller, and let's call it as get persons. Okay, let's go back into our home controller and try to implement that new action. Again, I will be using Java 8 style using completable futures to implement this action. Again, this public completion stage from our Java 8 concurrent API. Get persons. So we need to read all the available persons. Say completable future. Let's supply the implementation in async manner. Let's use the second one where we need to pass the supplier and also the execution context. The supplier is going to be a function which takes no arguments, but it's going to make use of this model ebean finder, and let's specify the class that we are looking up, the entities we are looking up, which is of type person. And what do we want? We want why is it not showing completion? Let's see. I know that there's all method available. Okay, so it's happy now. Let's provide the execution context, the current execution context. So once we read all the persons from the database, what we want to do here is we want to convert those persons into JSON format. Then apply. Persons. So this is returning the list of persons. So we say okay, we'll give HTTP 200 and we need to convert our persons to JSON, and that is conveniently available with that static method. One thing that we need to do is we need to do that static import of that persons class. Import static which is available in the play eclipse package in the class JSON, and the static method is to JSON. So we imported that static method, and I think we need to import this one also. Okay, so we completed that method. So what this method does, just to explain one more time, so it's going to find all the persons within our current request context and convert those persons into JSON. Right? Let's check this the new route in our browser. So if you recall, we add one person, right, to our database. Let's try to access that persons. So it is compiling. Okay, so as you can see there, the person came back. Let's go back to our index and add one more person. Let's add Tom to our persons database, persons table. Let's look up persons. As you can see there are now 2 persons in our database table. Let's just do one more. So this portion demonstrate the JSON way of responding, which is kind of inbuilt within Play framework as a sort of a default nature, so that you can develop your APIs where the way your APIs would be responding is in a JSON format, and you can make your front end more richer with using any kind of the newer JavaScript libraries, whether it's AngularJS or whether it's React.js, whatnot. So you can use any of those libraries and decouple your client from your server implementation pretty easily. Let's improvise our solution a little bit more. Then in the next piece of coding, what I would like to show is the coffee scripts, which is kind of another cool way of programming for JavaScript, which is another a thin layer, which is a more concise syntax for your JavaScript, which follows on the same lines as Java 8 Lambda style or the Scala language, which are more concise. You don't need to get rid of unnecessary semantics within your code. So what I wanted to do here is so when you add persons on our index page, right, it redirects back to the home page. But when it redirects back, I want to show all the persons in a HTML list format, right? Let's create that list here, UL, and let's give it an ID so that we can reference within our JavaScript, right? So I create that. I'm going to dynamically add elements to this unordered list, right, within our coffee script. Again, the coffee script is going to be a compilable assets. So let's create another package in here. It's going to be called assets and JavaScript. So it created an assets JavaScript package. Let's create our coffee. Let's call our CoffeeScript file. So we need a file. Say other. I'm not sure why this is not giving me file option by default. So I need to create a file. And this is going to be called main.coffee. Okay, so let's start coding this main.coffee. So again, this is very CoffeeScript development is very concise. So what we want to do here within the CoffeeScript, again, so I will be using CoffeeScript for coding, but the page will also be using jQuery. Soon I will be importing the jQuery. So what I want to do here, when the page is ready, I want to call this function, and that function is, what that function does is it's going to call our person's route, right, that we developed, and when that person's route returns, I'm going to pass that person's to another function. And what that function does is it's going to iterate through the persons, right? And for each of the person, it will call another function, passing the index and one person at a time. Right? Once we have the person object available, I want to append it to the unordered list that we created, and we had given the ID as persons, right? We'll start appending our person. We want to append li element and we want to pass person name. So this completes. So when the page is ready, make a request to persons. When the person's request response comes back, we'll call this another function which will iterate through the persons and append one person at a time. So let's go back and see if this works. All right, let's refresh this page so that it can compile. So let's add one more person to our persons database. Okay, let's see what happened. It looks like the compilation did not trigger automatically, and the main what should happen is that the CoffeeScript file should get compiled. Let me create this again one more time. New package, assets already exist. Not sure why this is failing. Stop this. Let me try to just compile. So basically we want to compile our CoffeeScript to JavaScript. Once it's compiled, then it will be put in our public static assets folder. Okay, so I missed to do a few more things, right? So I need to import a reference, this CoffeeScript and the jQuery in my, in the main template, right, where we have the head section. Let's go into the main template, and we want to import this new JavaScript file, and also we need our the jQuery. So let's add a reference to those two libraries that we need. The first library we need is the JavaScript library, HTTPS. I'm going to just for I'm going to directly reference from the jQuery website. jQuery 3.1.1.min.js file. The another JavaScript file, right, that we need is the one we just created. JavaScript, and this is going to be present. So we would again make use of the reverse routing. Routes, assets, versioned. It's going to be JavaScript. I will explain a little bit more how this paths get resolved in a second. Right, the script. Another thing I want to add is that this is our type. Text. JavaScript. Routes, assets, versions, that is the path. This is going to become available. Let's complete the script tag definition. So the way this gets resolved, there are a couple of things here, right? The main.CoffeeScript was created, that is in the compilable assets. When it's compiled, and it is going to be converted and placed into our JavaScript folder as main.js. So that's how this compilation works. So since we made those two references, let's go back to our browser and test it one more time to see if we're lucky this time. Let's refresh the page again. Yeah, there you go. So it started working now. Let me add one more. As you can see, the redirect happened. The script is available. Just to show how the execution happens on the backend side, I can show you here. When the page is loaded, right, there should be an AJAX call made out to the person's route to get the JSON. So let me refresh. As you can see here, there was a person's call that happened, right? So and it got the JSON back. Once the JSON came back, our main.js JavaScript file. See, as you can see there, the CoffeeScript got converted into JavaScript, right? So when the person returned, it calls another function by passing the persons, which iterates through and creates our list elements. So that completes the demonstration I wanted to do today. Thank you for listening and watching my video.